Oh boy, am I excited for this one. We are watching the 1984 science fiction horror classic, The Terminator, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to James Cameron.
I almost bailed on being a filmmaker. It's about sitting in that big dark room with all those other people you don't know, and something's gonna come up on that screen that's gonna take you somewhere. I'm the king of the world!
Oh boy, it's a big one today. This is an exciting one for the podcast. Bringing back friend of the podcast, just a great guy in general, Academy Award winner Jeff Don, kind of guide us through the film. Of course, we've talked about this film quite a bit, but never start to finish. Literally seeing the film. Obviously, we're going to have it turned down. We're not going to have the audio going to avoid copyright and everything, but the goal is for everybody watching, have your copy of the Terminator synced up with us. When we press play, you press play, and you'll be able to hear mainly Jeff's, but from time to time, I might drop a nugget of something, his take on the film, since he literally worked on it. So let's bring him in here, and then we're going to get this rocking and rolling here. It's Jeff Don.
Hello, guys, fans of the Terminator. Thank you, Eddie, for doing this.
Yeah.
You are the biggest fan of them all. That's for sure.
It's definitely okay. So when I said sci-fi horror, do you agree?
Yes, I never thought of myself as a makeup artist that does horror films. I remember one time I was about to start a film with Ivan Reitman, and he goes, "Yeah, you did that horror film, Terminator." And I thought, it's more of a science fiction. And the thing is, nowadays, with our reality and AI, it's becoming a documentary.
Yeah, it really is. So it's definitely got horror elements. So
Very much so. Where do you want to bring it up to before you, myself, and the world hits play?
It's going to be on the black screen right before the Orion logo.
How have you been, Eddie?
I have been very busy, just constantly reaching out to new people. Actually, just got in touch with Stephanie Austin. I'm sure you know that
Oh,
name.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So trying to get her on. She's a little timid. She's a little shy. But
She was a producer. She had to speak up many times on the films I worked with her on. You know?
Yeah. But your Arnold thing didn't happen, huh?
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, he's out of town. This happens most of the time, But hey, I keep trying, and every few years, when I'm in the same spot he's in, we get together. When I was in LA a few months ago, I had worked it out by reaching out to both Arnold and Lynn, his longtime assistant, and I didn't hear back. So then, when I was in LA, I spent one more time and I said, "Hey guys, I'm here for 2 more days. Let me know. Love to get together." So never heard back. Finally, I go home. I'm home for a couple of days, and I get a call from Dieter. Dieter, who's Arnold's good friend and stand-in. "Jeff, where are you? We're at the restaurant. Where are you?" "What are you talking about? I never heard back from you guys." So it got screwed up somehow. It wasn't in my email. It got screwed up. Arnold just talked with his assistant, and it went back and forth. And I, a kind of an important player in this threesome getting together for breakfast, was unaware until they were sitting in a restaurant. Wah, wah. Good.
Black screen before Orion. All right.
Black
cool.
screen before Orion.
And you have your subtitles on?
I didn't turn them on. I guess I could. I should. I kind of know it, but let's see. We've got English. Subtitles off, and subtitles are bingo.
All right. Perfect.
Ready to rock.
So we'll edit all that out. All right. So we are synced up, everybody, at the black screen right before that classic Orion logo of all the stars pops up. So make sure you're synced up there. You're paused there. Of course, have your audio blasting. Jeff and I are going to have our audio off, and we're going to get this train rocking and rolling. When was the last time you watched start to finish?
Probably a couple of years ago. Okay. I went online this morning on IMDb and looked at the endless trivia. I mean, it goes on and on and on for pages. I mean, I probably sat there reading it for 45 minutes. And many of the things are true, many things are not true, and a lot of them are embellished or just off a little bit. Um, but it's funny to watch those and listen to those. I get all kinds of posts for Terminator films and films I've done in the past saying this or saying that. And then I'll go in there oftentimes and correct it and say, no, that is not the case on the day.
Right.
You know, Arnold did not demand this and say, I will not do this and start yelling at James Cameron. So
All right. Well, if you're ready, I am ready. I will
let's do
count
it.
us down from 3, 2, 1 on play. We're going to press play.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. So there we go. Now we got that Orion logo. We're in this.
Yep.
Whew. Now Orion is no longer, correct?
As far as I know, I mean, there's so many mergers and failures and changes and adaptations in Hollywood that go on every day. I haven't heard of Orion for a long time. But hey, without Orion, we might not have Terminator 1. So
Yeah.
hooray to Orion.
All right. Now we're Los Angeles 2029.
Yes, of course, all miniatures here. I was not involved with this, except once we get into the live action stuff. And you know, these were huge miniatures, as your fans all know. They were quite massive in size. And the quality of work from Terminator 1 to Terminator 2 was substantially better between technology, James Cameron's education of it, and certainly the budget.
But still, I mean, this is visceral. Like this looks like it's really happening.
Yes. And this was all down at the where do we shoot this? This was down at an old cement factory that was all in rubble now. And this was tons of stunts, all huge explosions, all at night, of course.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Michael Biehn.
Arnold had on all of his movies, and this was very important to him from the start, it would say Arnold Schwarzenegger, or at least Schwarzenegger,
right
on the very top of the poster.
But that
was his
that
thing.
That kind of like, I forget when it ended, but that because his newer films didn't have that. It would say Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know,
Exactly. Yeah. It just wasn't that important to him. Hey, my first movies, my full name that my parents gave me is Jefferson, not Jeff. So for this and some of my first movies, I went down as Jefferson until finally one day said, why are you calling yourself Jefferson? Nobody knows you as Jefferson. And I did it for my parents. So then I just took it off and started going Jeff Don. Bruce Kerner, our producer, which I don't think is here anymore. Of course, Stan Winston.
yeah.
I have much to be thankful for. To Stan is no longer with us. I met James Cameron and Gail Ann Hurd at Gail Ann Hurd's house up on Mulholland Drive, overlooking the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles in 1983. And they said, great, we'd like you to be the makeup department head. You have to meet Stan Winston. Stan has final say on who's going to be the makeup department head. So I knew of Stan, of course, through my father, who was a makeup artist. And Stan knew of me. We had a meeting. It was great. And I was on.
Now we got the dumpster hands coming down.
Mm-hmm.
That
of course, this is, what's that?
I was going to say that almost until you see what year it is, they almost kind of like, I'm sure that was to play with the audience, right? Okay, is this still the future? Oh no, now we're in 1984.
Mm-hmm. 1984. This man right here was our security guy. I forget what his name was, but he was our main security guy on the set. And Jim said, hey, I want to put you in the movie. Of course, this is up at the Griffith Park Observatory at night, shooting it in 1980. I think this was 83 we were actually shooting it. A funny story about Arnold appearing here. This was one of the first days we worked with Arnold. And I had met him before. I'd done tests on him. I was a huge Arnold fan because I was into bodybuilding at the time. And of course, Arnold shows up and he has a tan line. He's a bodybuilder. He lays out in the sun with shorts on. He has a tan line. Terminators don't have tan lines. So here I am in the makeup trailer on my hands and knees. Nobody else is in there. Arnold's standing up buck ass naked, and I'm sitting there painting his ass. Hey, Arnold, how's it going? Hell of a way to get to know somebody quickly. Of course, Arnold doesn't give a damn. He's so confident.
Right.
Truly one of the most confident, if not the most confident human beings you'll ever meet. He's a happy, positive person. He likes positive, happy people around him. He's a let's get it done kind of guy. See, no tan line.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and yeah, this was, and this area still exists. You can go up there and look at this. And here, of course, we have Bill Paxton. The first time I worked with him, I worked with Bill 3 different times, and wonderful guy. You know, sorry to see Bill. We lost Bill years ago, and
Yeah.
I didn't even ask Jim about this tire track in the face. Peter Tothpal, the hairstylist, and myself just said, let's just have some fun. So Peter did the hair. I did this tire track across his face, and Jim looked at it and said, I love it. That's great.
So, but you don't recall why you did it? It was just
Well, he's a punk. You know, you want to do some makeup. I think I blackened out his tooth. We wanted to make these guys look like they're 80s punks, you know. And I thought, you know, I can do eye makeup. I can do all the typical kind of rock video look and that. And I go, why don't I do a tire track? We don't know if it's a tattoo. We don't know if he painted it on. And it's very memorable.
Oh,
Jim was concerned here with this, that it looked like he tore his heart out. Of course, he didn't. He killed him by running it through his stomach. But he was concerned the audience would be like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! You know, what kind of movie is this? This is a little too hardcore." But obviously, it wasn't.
yep. And now here we get Michael Biehn.
Mm-hmm.
He always talks about the incredible stunt that his stunt man did here, from literally just rolling off.
Yes. Yep. we had 2 ladders and a board across the top, and a very naked stuntman made to look like him with scars in the hair and the dirt and all of that. And he just rolled off and landed on hard concrete. Ugh, I think we did it once. That would be a tough one to do multiple times. And of course,
Now-
Michael was always covered in these scars. They were the old style scars we used to do, made out of foam latex,
Okay.
which goes back to the Wizard of Oz. We still use foam latex for certain things because it's very durable. And you know, he's got dirt and oil and other things on him to make him look more almost homeless.
Which your great grandfather worked on, The Wizard of Oz?
Yes, my great grandfather, Jack Dawn, was head of the MGM Maker Department for 15 years. Did over 100 films there, including Wizard of Oz.
For anybody meeting you for the first time, that's one of my favorite facts about you, Jeff, is
Oh yeah, that. I love saying that to people when they go, "Oh, that's kind of cool, kind of cool." And then I said, "And Wizard of Oz," and everyone on the planet that I've ever said that to goes, "What?"
yeah.
It's fun to see because much of this film holds up still, but it's so dated for the 80s look, having to do with cars and hairstyles and clothing, music. And considering this was done for, I keep hearing different figures between 6.3 and about 6.7 million. That's a good budget even nowadays for a independent film. But they were trying to get, you know, 20-30 million dollars look out of this heavily effects filled, stunt filled, makeup filled film. And James Cameron did. Funny, I read in one clip that most of these shots, many of these shots were done guerrilla filmmaking, you know, with no permits and such. There was a few like that, but for the most part, it was we always had police around. We had police on the streets in cars, driving motorcycles when it came to our driving stuff. We had lockups. We had permits for all of this. This was too large of a footprint with its lighting and its action and its cars and stunt people to get away with much without permits.
Right. Especially to use police cars, right?
Yeah, exactly. It always sounds cool that, oh yeah, we did this guerrilla filmmaking. We just went and did it. And some shots were. Linda Hamilton driving off in the Jeep at the end toward the mountains was that way, and they were stopped by police. And Gail Anherd said, this is a student film we're doing. There was a little of that, but for the most part, it was we were heavily permitted. Of course, it was a non-union film, meaning it was the cast was not IATSE film unions. Um, we attempted to make it union. We had a get together on a weekend because we had the choice of this going union, and that's what happens with a lot of non-union films. They get turned over, they become union, and suddenly everybody becomes union, making more money and such. We all met up at a building in the San Fernando Valley on a Saturday, and there was all the department heads were there. The DP, Adam Greenberg, our producers were there. Jim was there, and the union people were there, and everybody talked. And we thought, oh, this is great. And then finally, Jim got up and said, look, guys, this is my baby. If we do go union, we will have to shut down because we don't have the budget. We hope to then reconfigure in a few weeks or months and complete the film. You may or may not be on it, but I am asking you now, let's just finish the film. Let's finish it non-union. And it was such a heart and soul speech that we all voted to not go union. And I'm glad to this day we did. I became union a few years later and retired a couple of years ago after 35 years in the union. But I was always glad for that decision because we just kept filming, and they would have had to shut down.
Now, of course, we're looking for Sarah, and we get 3 Sarahs living in the same area.
It's such a cool idea. Just methodically go through and kill all the Sarahs.
There she is. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you saw Linda? Do you know?
Oh, wow. Years ago. Yeah, years ago. I saw her on, well, of course, we did the scenes in, she was in all of T2.
Right. And then you did T2
after
3D?
that at some point.
Did you do T2 3D?
I did T2 3D.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember from this, at the end of the film, when she gets a piece of shrapnel from the endoskeleton blowing up into her leg, I had a little piece of plastic that Stan gave me that was covered in chrome, very lightweight, but it looked like a piece of steel. So I put a prosthetic on her leg, tore her wardrobe apart a bit, and then because it had to stick out a bit and needed some rigidity to it, I glued it with super glue. Now, I'd used super glue before on people, and generally it's fine, okay? But it must have mixed with, this was in my early days when everything was an experiment. Is what I'm going to do going to kill the actor? Well, let's try it and see. And I used super glue on it, and it worked. And she started saying, this is starting to burn. So finally, we took it off. It had burned her skin a bit. Then I used some other glues to get the whole scene done. A couple of years later, I saw her, I think at a party or something. And I said, is that still a mark? And she showed me her leg, and there was still a mark on her leg.
Wow.
So sorry. I hope today it's gone. I think it was by Terminator 2, it was gone. But I felt badly about it.
It's a shame. I know, like, it's a mixed response to the film, but it's a shame you didn't work on Dark Fate with.
It is, and I was asked to do Dark Fate. I was doing Surrogates in Boston with Bruce Willis, and I was asked to do it by the Winston boys, and I couldn't do it. And no, Dark Fate's the last one.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
it?
20.
That's the last one.
That's
yeah. I'm
20.
thinking of the one with the Terminator 4, basically.
Yeah.
And no, I thought Dark Fate was a very good movie. It's all of the Terminator movies I thought were good movies, but the tough part is that there will never be another Terminator film that anyone accepts that James Cameron doesn't write and direct. It just, no matter how good the movie is, everyone compares it with 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they're almost a failure before they ever even see them in their mind.
And of course, this is Dick Miller.
Yep, Dick Miller. This was at the Alamo Gun Store, which was on, I think it's Van Noen or Victory in Van Nuys. It's something else now. It is still there. It's something else. I actually bought a little 22 pistol when I was there.
Nice.
Yep, pretty brutal.
Ooh. Now
Yeah.
when you talk about the super gluing and everything, how much of you are going to Stan Winston and asking for help, or is it all just you?
Well, what happens with that is I like to tell the story where Stan said, we're having a test with Arnold in a week at my studio. We'd like you to be there. And so I come in and I'm there and I meet the whole studio. There's a makeup station all set up. And I believe I'm there to observe because everything's all laid out. I've told this story so many times. And he, Arnold comes in, hey, everybody, you look fantastic. How's it going? And I'm thinking, oh, this is the first time I'm meeting Arnold, my idol. He's exactly my height, of course, much bigger. And I meet him. He knows some of the other guys because they've done life casts and such already. And he sits in the chair. And there's these two little um, prosthetics that cover the eyebrow, one on this side, one on this side. Little foam latex eyebrow covers, very thin, laying there. And nobody's doing this. I thought I was going to observe, and I thought, all right, this is going to be either a great success or a horrible failure. And I just jumped in and I did them, and they turned out really good. And Stan afterwards said, and I think it was a test. I wish he was still alive. I could ask him. I said, Stan, was that a test? He goes, no, I just, it was great the way you just jumped in there and did that. I thought it turned out really good. Actually, I wasn't sure if you were just going to do straight makeup in the film or if you were going to lead the prosthetic application. And he said, I'd like you to be the prosthetic applicator also. And of course, for the bigger things, I had to have one or two of his people there helping me for hands and other pieces of prosthetics and such. But for things like the eyebrow covers and day-to-day prosthetics and such, it was just me.
Mm. And of course, we just saw Marianne Muller-Liley, who was on the Terminator roundtable we did a few months back.
Mm-hmm.
Very
It's fun seeing all these people. But getting back to that, yeah, Stan, I would constantly liaise with Stan. He would be on the set. I would get prosthetics. Um, and if it was a big prosthetic, I would have one of his guys there. So yeah, Stan gave me a lot of freedom with this, and I very much appreciate it. He didn't have to do that. We spent so many weeks downtown LA working. The smells, the rats. Yep. What a sweetheart guy Michael Biehn was. A pro, very positive, method to a certain degree, but I say that as a compliment because I have great respect for method actors because method actors put it on the screen. And I don't have a problem with method actors. Some people do. I get along great with them because I know when to engage with them and when not to.
I think that is one of the most genius cuts where it literally transitions us to the future.
Mhm.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a heck of a way to have a nightmare. And of course, we're doing this on a practical stage, oftentimes outside amongst a lot of rubble. And whenever you need to see something in the background, back then we would just put a blue screen there, knowing that it would be filled in later with miniatures.
Are you familiar with Cameron's Xenogenesis short?
It sounds familiar. Why does that sound familiar?
From like
No is the answer.
it's from the late 70s. It's like a 12-minute short that he conjured up with Bill Wisher, and a lot of what the hunter killers look like in this film. You can see the inspiration from that film. It's really kind of wild, and that's I think
Amazing.
5 years prior to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds so familiar. I might have seen it, but it doesn't ring a bell. I don't have visuals in my mind from it.
Right.
It's amazing how this stuff holds up.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know, it really is.
Yeah, even that looked good.
Yeah, it did. You know, of course, it's just a quick cut. You lock the camera off. The woman ducks. You take a Polaroid of the position she's in. She steps out. You put a dummy in there in that same position, and then you continue filming, and that dummy gets blown up practically. Good old days when we did stunts and all of this stuff was real, other than the hunter killers and the laser blasts. It's all real.
And I think props to the editor of this. Forget his name, but it's the quick cuts. It's the real fast cuts that make this
Yeah.
film just move at a lightning pace.
And it's such a great buildup. Where is this going? What's going on? There's such tension in the air. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about what 40 something years ago, James Cameron visualizing where the future could go. I mean, this is a horror version of the future, but at the same time, we see robots that don't look much different than this. We have AI concerns that were just a joke back then. And not until a show like Black Mirror came along did we start saying, wait a minute, these scary futuristic predictions are coming true.
There's an episode of Black Mirror that is very heavily inspired by the Terminator. It's I think it's called Metalhead. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I'll send you.
No, yeah, please do. I've seen probably a third of them, including a couple of the new seasons.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely one of the earlier seasons, but big influence you can tell from the Terminator.
Yeah, but how many movies can you count that haven't been influenced by Terminator?
Yeah.
When it comes to futuristic and AI and robotics.
Do you know if because I know in the second film Linda's twin sister is used. Was she ever used in this film? Do you know?
No, we didn't even know Linda had a twin sister until T2.
Oh, okay.
And Rick Rossovich, who I worked with on 2 or 3 things, of course, did the first Top Gun movie. Good guy. Rick had some sort of bad injury on one of his legs from years earlier. It might have even been as a child, and it caused him to limp quite a bit. But you never see it in film. They're able to cut around that.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Today we're recording. It is let's see here. Today is May 7th. I think either today or yesterday was Lance Henriksen's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So kind of ironic.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim and Lance work together a lot.
Yeah. Because it goes back to Piranha. It goes back to Piranha.
Yeah.
And he was one of the original considerations for the Terminator.
I've heard that both yes and no. I've heard the story that for like an Orion meeting, they had him dress up in all the outfit with some cuts and bruises on his face and go in there very intimidating. Like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to offer. But I've heard both ways that he was, of course, Jim did a lot of the artwork originally based off of his face. So it would be a James Cameron question because it could have gone either way. Jim could have been considering him or just using him as a model in the process. Of course, people like, O.J. Simpson, you had Tom Selleck was up for it.
Wow.
Sylvester Stallone. There's so many names that were considered or offered it. And people were very concerned about Arnold because he didn't have any experience with dialogue. Is he going to be too clumsy? Is he going to be too awkward? Is his size not going to be believable in a room full of normal people? But when Arnold, even back then, when Arnold was 240 pounds and 6'1", 6'2", in normal clothes, Arnold looked like a normal guy. Arnold didn't have that big, huge, bulky monster in a suit look. So Arnold could get away. And he used to tell me, he said, Jeff, I'm fortunate because you touch most bodybuilders and they're hard as a rock. That's just the way they develop. For some reason, I've always been very soft and loose. I can relax and look normal. But when I flex, then suddenly the vascularity, the muscularity comes out, which I found to be very unique since then, because most bodybuilders are like a rock. And they walk stiff, they talk stiff, they move, it's harder for them to move around and be very fluid. And Arnold was able to do that.
And he always had the perfect mix of next level human look and still looking
Yes.
relatable. Now I see a lot of bodybuilders and they have like it looks like they're just like they literally look like the Hulk. And to me that's a little too much.
Yeah, he was always relatable that way.
Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like there are like they have muscles on their muscles nowadays.
Yeah,
It's
it's
wild.
well now it's a freak show. That's why, back in the what they call the classic bodybuilding days, where you had the Frank Zanes who were very lean, very muscular, very um, normal, other than being very muscular. He won Mr. Olympia 3 years in a row. You had the mass monsters, as they call them, and that's when it started to become more of a freak show. And people in the industry will tell you that too. You go to see a bodybuilding show, or you follow bodybuilders because it's so freakishly abnormal. It's a cartoon now. And every guy likes to be thought of as big and strong and tough and intimidating. Not every guy, maybe, but a lot of guys. And so bodybuilding really might help that. Whether you're small, whether you're tall, you can become a strong, big, intimidating looking person. But that's not what Arnold wanted. Arnold wanted to be the most perfect body in the world. And he was strong. Luckily, he was fairly injury free, unlike people like Ronnie Coleman, who now are in a wheelchair after multiple Mr. Olympia wins. All that heavy weight can really do some damage to you. And it has with Arnold. His ligaments, his tendons, his joints are all hurting now from the thousands and the hundreds of thousands of pounds he lifted over the years.
Mm.
Ha. I've gone to this restaurant several times. It's still there.
Really?
Little Italian place. I can't remember what it is. It's right there in Hollywood. It
Wow.
looks exactly like this. I went into it a couple of years ago. Back on I think it was the 20th or 25th anniversary of Terminator. James Cameron approved a documentary. It was like a DVD release or something. And Van Ling, who worked for James Cameron, put together a crew. And for weeks, we interviewed tons of crew, cast members, and then I went around to all the locations that we knew of that we could find, or I could find again, and did a little commentary. And we did that with this. Unfortunately, this was never released. Damn. But we drove around we went to Tech Noir. We went to all these places that, 20, 25 years earlier were sets. We could not find the culvert where they sit down and talk, where Reese talks to her and she bandages his wounds. I looked everywhere and I don't know if it exists still. I think that it was torn out of there and removed by, with some new construction or something.
Wow.
But, that was fun. I went up to Griffith Park Observatory and saw the spot that, all of that went on, and it's gone now. It's been remodeled so many times with handrails and new concrete and benches and chairs and things. It looks very different now, but it was fun going up there.
Because do you know why it wasn't released?
I don't know. I'm sure it was a James Cameron thing for whatever reason. He said, I don't want to do this anymore, or because I think he was funding it. And, this went on for weeks, months. We interviewed tons of people. It was great to see them again. And they interviewed me. And then I would do the makeup for a lot of the interviews. So that was enjoyable.
Oh man.
But yeah, that would have been a good one to see.
Well, because
Maybe we'll do
famously, this club Tech Noir is no longer there, right? That's gone.
No, this was we created this. When I went there many years ago, almost 20 years ago, for this documentary we were doing, it was The structure was all there, but it was complete. It was a jewelry store, very bright, but all the columns and the walls and things were still there, so I could visualize it. But it was surreal to go in there, and it was like, did I dream this, or did this actually exist as a club that we created? I remember the sign out in front that says Tech Noir was given to Jim. Jim gave it to Gail and Hurd, who really wanted it. It's probably 2 feet. That's two
Right.
feet
Right.
long, and it was a nice gift for Gail. I imagine she has it up someplace in her office.
Huh. All right, here we go. Now this is really, I think, the part that kind of makes me feel like this is a horror film, like just from the
Yeah,
music to the
and the brutality of it.
yeah.
I remember we had a stuntman in his underwear go through this glass as Arnold throws him through there to a stuntman, because it's a very dangerous thing to do. It's safety glass, so once it breaks into tiny little shards, no bigger than your fingernail, and then they just fall. But each one of those shards are still razor sharp, and if you have underwear on, you're going to fall on a concrete covered in glass shards. And what they do is they have these little squib devices on the corners at the bottom of a window. This is how they blow a window. And just as the stuntman hits the window, they detonate these breakers that, if you can see in slow motion, the whole window just goes and turns into, a spider web of cracks and then falls out. And I remember the stunt coordinator, Kenny Fritz, said, let's just take some Krylon and really cover the backside of him, his back, the back of his arms, his shoulders, the back of his legs. That'll protect him from the glass. And I thought, this is goofy. I never heard of that before. I put several coats of Krylon clear spray. He's laying down on a bench outside in his underwear. I'm getting paid for this. And damn it, it worked. That guy
Yeah.
didn't have a scratch on him. It took me an hour or two to clean it off, but it was like a skin on there. Hey, don't try this at home, kids. But I was amazed. This was early in my career. I worked in this business for 40. I actually retired 2 years ago, but I'm still doing a few films, including some big ones, just with people I want to work with, projects, places I want to go. I don't care about the money anymore. I don't care about the credit. I just love the business still. I love what I do. But this was early on. You'll see Arnold does blink here. He talks a lot about trying to shoot without blinking because a Terminator wouldn't blink. Try to fire a 45 automatic without blinking. Okay, yes, it's blanks, but they use what are called full blanks. They have to use the same amount of gunpowder in each casing so that the action slides back fully and racks another round in the chamber each time. No bullet comes out, but it's really loud. And there's just no way you can shoot a 45 at arm's length and not blink.
Right. Because when I think of not blinking, obviously Robert Patrick got it down, but that's a very different gun in T2, right?
It is. I believe he had a 9mm, which was, has half the percussion and sound.
Yeah.
Because Arnold's a very disciplined guy. If Arnold, I mean, obviously so. Look what he's done with his career, with, finance, with bodybuilding, with fitness, with politics. He's extremely dedicated and focused on whatever the end goal is. So if Arnold wanted to do that, he probably could have worked a little harder to do it. But I don't know. That's a tough one with a 45.
This is probably my favorite scene in the whole film when they all converge in Tech Noir for the first time. When
Yeah.
when she knocks over whatever she knocks over and just misses her.
Uh-huh.
It's haunting. The
All slow motion.
Yeah,
The
slow-mo.
music. You can just tell once it goes to slow-mo, the audience goes, uh-oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Because you know that a lot of stuff's about to break. It's about to go crazy here when it's all in slow motion. Crunch. It just pulverized that guy's hand.
What's the
And
more
these were fun. What's that?
What's the more iconic look for Arnold in this film to you? Is it this look, or is it when he has the black leather on later?
Um, it's interesting because once he starts to become less human with his missing eyebrows, his burnt hair, all of that, I like the iconic look of him. That's the still photo of him in the police car with the burnt hair and no eyebrows when
Mm,
he's searching. I believe he has the yeah, he has the eyebrows missing there.
yep.
And of course, the shine on Arnold's face was KY jelly. All right. And needless to say, I was kidded a lot because I would walk around and I'd have a tube of KY jelly in my back pocket sticking out. And, needless to say, people, hey, Jeff, what's going on there? What's happening? A quick story. Peter Tolthball, the hairstylist on this, and Peter and I, throughout our career, did, I think, 32 films together as makeup and hair department head. And one day I borrowed a motorcycle and I was driving to work on the freeway. And I see Peter's van up ahead. Oh, great. Peter's heading to work. I'll say hi to him. Well, I drive up next to him. I've got a full face helmet on, covered completely. He doesn't know who I am. I don't have a motorcycle. He has no idea who this guy is next to him. And I'm 5 feet away from him going 70 miles an hour. Peter, it's Jeff, Peter. I said, who the hell is this guy? And I thought, how am I going to let him know? Well, I had in my jacket, I was bringing to work some makeup supplies, including a couple of boxes of KY gel. I thought, everybody jokes around with me about this. He'll know who I am by this. I take the KY jelly box out as I'm driving the motorcycle at 70, and I'm showing it to him. He didn't know it was me. So by the time we got to work, he goes, Jeff, I had no idea who you are, and I didn't want to know what you wanted.
Strange man.
Yes, strange man. Pretty brutal here. Yep.
Yep.
And, of course, many of these stunts, Arnold had many stuntmen over the years. His main stuntmen were Joel Kramer and Billy Lucas. But on Terminator, the extras casting people were told we need a stand-in and a photo double for Arnold. They brought in Peter Kent. Okay. And Peter Kent is a little taller than Arnold, a little leaner, but he's a muscular guy with a very angular face that's similar to Arnold. And they hired him on the spot as a stand-in and a photo double, which was used quite a bit through this. And Jim loved to use him as a stuntman. Well, Peter went on to do many, many films with Arnold as his stand-in and doing many stunts. Peter was, I think, indoctrinated into the Stuntman's Hall of Fame. Some people say, "Oh, Peter, he's just a stand-in." No, I've seen Peter do incredibly death-defying. He's gone to the hospital a couple of times, several times actually, and I've seen Peter do some stuff that you screw up or something goes wrong, something breaks, and you die.
Mm.
So, kudos to Peter.
Now,
this was a pretty, yeah.
I always thought it was like, I know you love the look of the eyebrows burnt off. I
Yep.
always found it a little funny that they just completely burnt off.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in theory, there should have been, and the idea was to get him in glasses as soon as possible. So we're not focused on that. So we're not looking at this and he has a wig on here. The smoke is what's called AB smoke. They don't use it anymore. It's actually two clear chemicals. You spray the one chemical on, it's wet, whether it's in the hair, body, whatever. And then when you're ready to roll, you spray the other chemical on, and it really smokes for about a minute. But it's extremely caustic. It's like chlorine or something. It's terrible. And Arnold at the time, what is this shit? This is terrible. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get the shot and move on. Well, they don't use it anymore because it's dangerous. But it sure looked good. That was amazing. That whole sequence where he punches through the window. Of course, it was a hydraulic fist. It was a solid metal fist on a hydraulic ring that we put wardrobe over. I had to put a glove around it. Try to put a glove around a solid metal fist. You got to cut that glove up a lot and glue it together. And then Arnold had his arm behind his back, and they rehearsed it over and over and over. where this ram was going to go bang on three. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We did it one time and it worked great. It had the power to shatter right through that window. And of course, everything had to be stationary. The car, the forklift holding the ram, Arnold on the roof, it all had to stay stationary. So the movement of all of this going backwards was performed by Jim put fake bricks, these panels of fake bricks on the side of a truck. So that truck just moved, giving the illusion that they were backing up, that it was all stationary. This is in the early days when I hadn't seen this stuff. I'm thinking, this magic is incredible. I believe that voice just then was Bill Wisher.
Right. Yep. Who many theorize, because he appears in T2 in the mall taking the photo. A lot of people theorize that's the same character. It could be a different character, but it'd be kind of funny if it was the cop retired.
Which cop are you speaking of?
Remember, because Bill Wisher is the one that Arnold hits into the cop car to steal.
Right.
And then in T2, we see Bill Wisher taking the photo of him.
Correct.
As he goes through the glass. A lot of people theorize that's the same character.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's now just at the mall.
He's at the mall, retired, you know. That's why that's why he kind of has that look on his face, maybe.
Yep. Now he's into photography. Yeah, you can imagine. Although these are done at the early hours of the morning when hardly anybody is around downtown LA, because it was, yes, it's filled with homeless people and such, but it was a business district. So it was quite quiet in the middle of the night. But we had to have a lot of police. We had to have a lot of lockups. You can't be driving, although some of the driving stuff was sped up to make it look more, intense. They're still driving pretty fast. This was the old Department of Water and Power. I believe this was the first night Arnold worked. It's the first night I met Peter Kent, who was brought to the set, hired, met Arnold. I had a vehicle at the time that had a fake, like a padded vinyl roof. It was a strange thing. And they said, "Hey, Jeff, can we park your car in here? Just to have some extra cars." I said, "Sure." Well, several of the hot wads of shotgun that were still burning landed on the roof and burned big holes in it. So I learned early on not to volunteer my car.
Now, this is obviously a big example. A lot of people talk about this as one of the best examples of exposition maybe ever in a film, just of how it's constantly moving. It's
right.
You're getting so much information, but the action is,
Yeah, it's all coming at you. Everything in this is a sand going through the hourglass. You feel the tension that it's coming.
Yep.
Even when they're in the hotel, it's like, well, we think we're safe until you hear the dog barking.
Terminators don't feel pain. I do.
I do. This was fun because you take mortician's wax. Mortician's wax is a skin-colored, semi-translucent, pliable wax, and it's used by morticians for the last 100, 200 years to fill in for an open casket funeral. If somebody has facial damage or bullet holes or something, you can fill it in, cover it with makeup, and make the person look presentable in an open casket. We still use this once in a while in the film business to mold things. So I just put a bunch of mortician's wax all around here and with a little bit of color underneath it, and she just bit into it, leaving teeth marks. And then after that, you just put some scabs on there. He had the bandage on. I even had to experiment. Go, all right, I'm going to ask Linda Hamilton to take a bite of this wax. Is it poisonous? Is it terrible? Nah, just tastes like wax.
So this is your favorite look right here.
It's a creepy android. I love of course, the bloody look is so synonymous with a Terminator with all of its metal. He's still somewhat human here.
Right.
I mean, the thing is that all of the other Terminator movies have done that endoskeleton showing through blood, chrome. It's so synonymous with his Terminator, battle damaged look. We've never seen this look since then. You know, this is a unique hybrid between human and a damaged alien or
Right.
damaged android.
Right. Now, I think this is the scene where, or maybe we missed it as we were talking, but Kyle says like that, or Linda says, "Are you crazy? That kind of thing can't happen." And then Kyle says, "Not for
No,
40 years."
yeah,
Right?
right. No.
That's 84, 94, 2004, 2014, 2024.
Oh boy.
There you are.
Yeah, think about all these things that are supposed to come and go. We keep avoiding Judgment Day. It's funny. I look at Linda here, and in Terminator 2, James Cameron originally wanted some scars on Linda Hamilton on her upper lip. So we did tests with it, and it's like this is going to be. We actually filmed her. The first day we filmed with her was with a scar, and it was on Terminator 2, out in the desert when they're driving out to get the weapons cache. And Linda has that scar on in a couple of scenes. It's just very small, and you really can't see it. Jim might have taken it out now for some of the later releases, but we decided at that point, no, it's just too much maintenance. If it's not that big a story point, having something that you're always talking, you're eating, or moving, the maintenance of it, you know, the materials of the day, the foam latex were harder to maintain. So luckily, we decided to just take it out in Terminator 2. Jim wanted to show some, you know, she'd been around the block when it came to violence.
Right.
We did have the scar on Linda's arm on the side here for Terminator 2, but that was it. Wow, so many years ago.
Doesn't he like here he shows his right, he shows
Yep.
the scan
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here.
Yep. That's just a barcode. I remember going to a stamp company that made stamps, you know. My name is Jeff Dawn and I do makeup, ink stamp. And I just came up with a random barcode. I probably brought in an egg carton or something and said, "Can you make a few of these?" Showed it to Jim. Jim loved it. And then many years later, I got an email from a guy in England, and um, his name was Reese. His first name was Reese, and he said he was named because of this movie, and he's a huge fan of it. So I talked with him for quite a while, and I had one of these still, and I sent it to him. So it meant nothing to me. It would have probably ended up in the garbage, you know. But it meant a lot to him, and it felt good to do that.
Wow.
Stuff that it, you know, to me is junk.
Right. So it was basically just like a one of those kind of
Yep. Wood, just a little wooden handle. You know, it has the stamp portion here, and then a little handle above it, and you just and the ink on the skin. I
huh.
just used regular ink. It was about as low tech as possible, but it worked. Jim
It
liked
did
it.
it did work. Did you do anything to kind of give it that glisten look, or was that
I didn't know that glisten was, as I look at it now, I mean, a tattoo isn't going to glisten. So that was actually a mistake, but it works better because it caught the light. It was the actual ink had a little bit, it was dry, but the ink had a little shine to it. And as much as I think, well, as a tattoo, it failed, but for the shot, it succeeded. It's fun to look back at some of my past failures that ended up being successes. I once heard that if you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate. We don't succeed until we try again, you know, and that's been true in my career.
well, you're not referring to that as a failure. That was genius.
No. But
That was genius.
trust me, there are failures in my career where at the time I went, ouch. And then later on I see it in the movie and go, that worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a classic example of what you're talking about, where a lot of the footage is slightly sped up a little bit just
Yep.
to give it, you know.
Yep. Yeah, this section here is only 200-300 yards long, and but they keep going like it's a mile.
You know, I truly never understood how the Terminator, the character, got out of that car so quick without any of the cops seeing him.
I know.
Right?
Yep.
He's in the car.
Without anybody.
He's in
Uh-huh.
the car.
Yeah, it would have taken the cops would have needed to have come around the corner about now
Yeah,
for him to go
yeah.
and them and also these two not to see him.
Right.
All of our stuntmen. Of course, scenes like this, they're carrying guns. You can carry a gun as an extra. If you fire it, you're going to be a stuntman. Of course, if you're driving in the vehicle or driving the vehicle or driving in one of these vehicles that are going very fast, you're a stuntman. So we had a lot of stunt people on this. I always wondered why they didn't have some droplets of blood.
Right, right.
Oh, in this scene, we in makeup we have many ways of making tears. One of them is a menthol blower. It blows menthol fumes in an actor's eyes and it makes them cry. Um, I would take menthol and I would crush it up and put it in some Vaseline and you dab it underneath the eye so that the fumes come up into the eye and continue to make the person cry. And Linda at one point said, "You know what? Just give that to me." And she takes a dollop of this and she goes to put it here and it goes into her eye. Well, it's menthol. She's like, this is burning like crazy. Of course, Jim is like, "What the hell did you do, Jeff? Don't let actors handle their own makeup." But it all worked. We flushed her eye out. I
So
didn't
that's
get
what,
fired.
so that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah,
That's
this is
hilarious.
this is all menthol being blown in there and the shininess underneath and the redness and the tears. That's all from that. But you got to be careful. You can't get that in the eye.
Now here is what is arguably
Hmm.
probably, I mean, I remember when we first got in touch with each other,
Hmm.
it was after you had listened to an episode where I talked about how certain
Uh-huh.
effects in the film look dated. This is probably the one part where it looks just the most dated in terms of the puppet that's used,
Yeah,
you
the
know?
puppet. This was an amazing shot here. We talked about this before. For this shot, when he's actually cutting into his arm, we had a woman puppeteer underneath the table. Just imagine you've cut a hole in the table. The woman puts her hand up through the table into a glove that's Arnold's hand. So
That's
now you can move it realistically. Okay, you can do this animatronically, but it's not as believable and it's very expensive. This was a low-tech version, and it worked so well. You had this little woman underneath there, and it would be like, okay, move the finger, and it works
it
for
does.
this. That's a
That is
prosthetic hand completely, and that is a woman's finger underneath there.
that is so cool. How did this not? Well, I mean, regardless of if it looks dated or not, how did this film not get nominated for? Because by that time, best makeup was a category.
I'm not sure. I wasn't that involved back then. Of course, I won for Terminator 2 and became an Academy member and became very familiar with all of the meetings and all the discussions and the protocols and rules and such after that. But I don't know. You've asked that question before, and it is definitely because this stood
Yeah,
out in a big way.
yeah.
I mean, Terminator 2 isn't that much more amazing makeup wise than this was. So for this not even to be considered is interesting.
Is it because it was a non-union film? Is that
No, I
maybe
don't think so. I don't
no?
think so. I mean, whether it was 1984 or 2025, non-union, independent, low-budget films are oftentimes considered or nominated. It's just nowadays if it's good enough.
Mm.
It's not like the industry shuns a non-union film and says, "I'm not even going to look at that because I believe in unions." It's not that at all.
Of course, Earl Bowen, another one, lost a
Hmm.
few years ago.
Yep, yep. Luckily, we had him in Terminator 2 and 3.
Yeah, a little cameo in 3. He's also
Mhm.
I think he was in the pre-show for T2 3D.
I'm trying to remember. I worked on that.
Like the pre-show where the audience is walking through the queue in the actual physical.
Interesting.
He's on some screens.
Oh, interesting. Okay. See,
Yeah.
I worked on it, but you know more about it than I do because
Here
that's
we
not
go.
something I would have been involved with. Yeah.
Here we go.
But, you have Arnold's real hands there. Once you get into the, this
This
is always so brutal. Do
it
not
is.
take a Sharpie or do not take an X-Acto to your eyeball.
Oh, oh, it is. This had
It
to
is
be
actually
exciting to
pretty
work on.
well cut together. What's that?
This had to be exciting to work on though.
Oh yeah,
This part right
yeah.
here.
I mean, it took a lot of um, you matching up a lot of. Look at it. I mean, this is obviously the real Arnold. He's blinking. Not until you see this front-on shot, you kind of go, eh. But for 1984,
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. The close-up of the eye.
mhm.
I like that. That's the part right there where you just kind of
Yeah, the thing is with animatronics, as you know, it's hard to get fluid motion. It's more like
yeah.
it because by the time the servo or the cable moves that body part, there's so much tension, there's so much resistance that it's hard not to have it jump and jerk a little bit.
You got to love
Stan was
the
Stan was tops in the world when it came to this kind of stuff back then, as his studio legacy still is today. But that's one of the things that we're used to seeing it better nowadays through technology.
right. You got to love that the Terminator fixed his hair a little bit in the mirror. Just made sure it was
Yeah, have to look normal. I read an interesting thing today that I never heard of before, is that the Terminator bleeds because the original design had a heart that would pump blood to give it that look and to give it the realism of this skin over the endoskeleton. And I'd never heard this before, but it kind of makes sense.
right.
And that he starts to smell and to rot because when Reese shoots him in the chest several times, one of those rounds destroys that heart. So he no longer has the ability to pump blood, which kind of makes sense because I made him very white. He's very pale in this and shiny. And then, of course, there's the comment from the guy in the hotel coming up
Yeah.
that, what's smelling there? You got a dead cat? And he says, "Fuck you, asshole." But that was interesting. I'd never heard this before, and it could actually be. I don't know if it's a James Cameron thing or just some fan came up with this as a concept.
Mhm. Sorry.
I used to drive Michael Bean home a lot of times because he didn't live far from where I was. I don't remember, he didn't have a ride, or he wasn't his car wasn't available or something. But I drove him home many times and picked him up a few times too. And it was always enjoyable spending time with him.
Do you have any cool Paul Winfield stories? Because I know he's kind
Uh,
of, he's kind of just
yeah,
there, but
yeah. I don't have any memories other than him being professional and knowing him already. I'm at the early stages of my career, so I see somebody I recognize from film or TV, and I think, wow, there's a celebrity. How exciting!
what was he mainly known for?
Oh boy, where did I see him? I can't remember now. I just knew at the time that I'd seen him in the past. He was recognizable. Like so
Right.
many character actors, you recognize them, but you don't remember from where. You don't remember what their character was. You just go, I've seen that guy before. This was Bruce Kerner on the left here. He was one of our producers. He was producer in charge of production was his title, but he
Mhm.
did a good job here. And I had to do a dummy of him, a mustache dummy with a wig and glasses and everything for when a car crashes in. And when you see that in slow motion, you can see that it is a dummy. And a mistake that was made here, of course, is that
You can see his
when
eye.
he,
You can see his eye,
well,
right?
you can see a little bit there, but I mean, these gargoyles cover this pretty well. He has eyebrows here. I wasn't
Okay.
covering his eyebrows for this.
Oh, okay.
So we were very careful not to have him tilt his head down. And then when the car comes back in, you see the car with, what is it? The lights come on to his face, like the car is coming in, but when it crashes through the door, there's no lights.
Oh, okay.
And
never
here's
knew
the
that.
dummy right there.
I never noticed that.
Yep. That was one of those oops mistakes. He responds to the headlights, but then when we see the car, there's no headlight. Little things like this happen with stunts because you get so jacked up in the last minute. For safety, is everyone ready? Is everyone? We got the visual effects, the special effects, the whatever explosions or gunshots or the stunt people. Everybody ready? All right, roll camera. And the little things like that sometimes get missed.
Mm-hmm.
We did that on T2 3D with a motorcycle driving one time where we were not remembering to turn the light on with a motorcycle when we were about to do a stunt. I remember this, those bullets across the wall. I remember the special effects people had a very even line of like 6 rounds across. And Jim said, no, 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 no. I want it to be a regular boom, 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 boom. Which looks much better because a weapon that's firing full automatic oftentimes doesn't do a nice arc. It's jumping around, so the rounds are erratic on the wall. At the time, I thought, it's kind of cool. That little thing made a difference.
Do you know where the gargoyles are? Does Arnold still have those gargoyles?
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. Yeah. Arnold's big on holding on to props or getting props. Later on in life, he would always have extra props made because he was part of Planet Hollywood.
Right.
So he would have a pair of cowboy boots for Last Action Hero, and he'd have 30 of them made. He would keep a couple, and he would have the others given to the Planet Hollywoods all over the world. Same with watches and guns and wardrobe and all of that.
Because
Arnold loves to keep that stuff.
That's the thing. That's the thing you always hear about with the old films, like with this, because no one knew that this was going to really be what it turned out to be.
Right.
And so to hold on to something would be kind of
Mhm.
rare, right? To hold on to something would be kind of like not something you would necessarily do because you're just thinking you're making a small, low budget film.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but Arnold, you go into Arnold's office and there's, shelves of cool stuff everywhere from different movies. I remember during this whole sequence, James Cameron got a piece of shrapnel in his forearm and the inside of his forearm here.
Oh.
And it was either from one of the squibs or when you're firing blanks, you're still using everything is real there except there's no bullet in it. You have the brass casing, you have all the gunpowder in it, and they take the opening of the brass casing and they crimp it all together to hold the gunpowder in there. And when you fire the weapon, boom, it opens up and you have the flash and you have the sound and the recoil. Sometimes a little finger of that brass goes flying out the front and it went right into Jim's forearm. Ow. And this was all a practical location. It was down at the old Bethlehem Steel. That's it. It was Bethlehem Steel. All the stuff we did in the beginning. This was one of the offices because Bethlehem Steel was closing out, and this was a no longer being used facility. All of this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with that iconic look of the eyebrows missing. And I never thought of that before. It's because that's a look we've never seen in any of the other films.
Yeah, that's true. And there is something very just not right about it.
Mm-hmm. If you saw that guy in the street,
And I've actually talked to people who don't know that his eyebrows are not there. Like they don't realize that they're not there, but there's
Well,
something that's,
yeah, that's actually really great because then it's a subliminal creepiness, you
yeah.
know. It's whether it's his movements, his shine, getting pale, the hair burned off, the eyebrows missing. It all comes together with this is creepy. This is a culvert that was a practical culvert in Griffith Park, and I could not find it for the life of me.
So you think it just got like plowed down
I
or?
think so, yeah, because they go through every few years and they make a new road or they don't need the culvert anymore because now it's underground, water. And this was a big enough culvert where, and this is also in Griffith Park area, which is around Los Angeles. Griffith Park is where, of course, you have the Hollywood sign, you have the observatory, Griffith Park Observatory. It's a very large chunk of mountain in the middle of Los Angeles. And there's the zoo, there's Universal Studios on one side. There's a lot of stuff around it. And it's right next to Hollywood. And there was an equestrian area on the San Fernando Valley side. So a lot of this area had these culverts that were big enough for a person and a horse to ride through. And I believe this was one of them. This was such good casting. Linda did a great job playing this sweet, innocent. I didn't ask for any of this. And then her transition into Terminator 2 and 3 and on, not 3, but Salvation.
Do you know of any other casting potential ideas for Sarah, or was it always Linda? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was a woman named Lisa Langlois that was offered it, who I looked up today and is still alive and working. I wasn't aware of that until today when I found it in the trivia. And of course, the disclaimer with the trivia on IMDb is that take it with a grain of salt. It could have been embellished, it could have been fabricated. Um, until somebody steps up that really knows the answer, you got to go, okay, that's interesting. I always wondered why Michael Biehn didn't become a huge actor. He was good looking, he was well built, he was a good actor. He could play leading men, he could play bad guys, he could play good guys. That's the way the business is. I've always said that there's 20 people at the top, men and women, and when the new guy or girl comes in, they shove the last one on in line off, and they become the hot ticket. The um, the Tom Cruises of the world only exist with Tom Cruise. They've been around for decades, been top of their game, box office. There's not, other than people giving him a hard time about his religion, whatever. He's just not a political guy. You don't see him in the news a lot. He just minds his own business.
Right.
And I've heard from people that have worked with him that he's a very nice, very professional guy, remembers everybody's name. So maybe those are some of the attributes you need, but it surprised me that so many actors become huge. Even Arnold. Look at Arnold. He was top box office for years, and then he steps off the plate, and somebody else steps in, and takes over for him.
Right. And then tries to come back and has a bit of success, but
Yeah,
really...
it's tough. We've all seen the John Travoltas and people like that disappear and then come back again. That's tough, especially at Arnold's age now. I mean, he's still Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's still a happy guy. I sit down with him occasionally when I live in Oregon. He lives in Los Angeles. When he was governor, I had a place in LA and in Oregon, so I would drive through Sacramento several times a year. And I would call his secretary and say, hey, I'm coming by tomorrow. Is Arnold around? Oh, yeah, he's here. Love to see you. Come on by and have lunch. And I would stop and go to the the Capitol and hang out with him for a while, and we'd go to the local gym. It's funny because Arnold wouldn't work out in a private gym. He'd go to the local public gym, and he'd have a couple of Secret Service guys there because he's the governor. But they weren't all over him. They were very hands off because Arnold, in my years of knowing Arnold and traveling with him, Arnold's never been somebody with bodyguards. People say, "Oh, because he doesn't need it." No, because Arnold doesn't have that I'm a jerk attitude. Arnold's always been super friendly with his fans in public, especially kids. People know that. People have been very, and in the gym, people are, "Hey, Governor, really love your work. Thank you very much." "Ah, you're welcome." And they wouldn't bother him that much, that they would just say hello and chat for a moment. And Arnold would engage with them. And it was wonderful to see that he chose to not be this, king on the hill type of thing. And he had a hotel room across the street from the Capitol that he would keep during the week. And then Friday night, he would fly home, spend the whole weekend with his family. And then Monday morning, he would fly back to the Capitol and then spend that whole week at the Capitol. So he tried very hard to keep his family life together during that time.
Going off of what you said about not really needing a lot of security guards, do you remember a few years ago there was that moment I forget where he was. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The guy that kicked him, or the egg?
No, the guy that kicked him.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know what that all was. It was like a festival. It was like the Arnold's Classic or something like that. And yeah, I don't know what ever happened with that. I've seen it a few times. Pretty brutal.
Yeah.
A couple of big dudes. Because when you're at the Arnold's Classic, I've been there with him a couple of times. He's absolutely mobbed by people. Arnold's coming, and you look and you see 100 yards away in a giant building, masses of people around something. So they had to keep him cocooned in a bunch of monsters because you got monsters there already because it's bodybuilding. And he would have these monsters around him that were very polite. They were not told to ever be rude. Just nope, not right now. Please step away. And one of these monsters jumped on the guy immediately, took him to the ground. Arnold was like, "What the hell is this?" But I don't know. And then when he was running for governor, he was hit by an egg. And his first response was, "That guy owes me some ham with that egg." He made a joke out of it, which that became viral.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and he moves a little bit, but not to the point where you thought because he's still kind of like the guy hits a brick wall kind of.
Yeah, I mean Arnold's still 220, 30 pounds, 6 foot. I mean he used to be 6'2". He's probably 6'1" or a little less now, as we all get older. Of course, this is going to be Franco Columbu.
Yep.
His very best friend, roommate for years, training partner. Franco was in quite a few of these. Franco did not like getting dirty for this.
Which it was such a shame. It was such a shame how he passed, Franco Columbu.
Yeah, he drowned. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yep. Franco would come on all the sets. They loved to play chess together. They were good friends. And this was all shot also at Bethlehem Steel in some trenches that were there and that were doctored up. We did a lot of filming at Bethlehem Steel.
I remember on the Terminator roundtable we did a few months back. This was the scene I was talking about because it got brought up about dogs and everything, and
right.
And I mentioned that they use dogs to scent out Terminators, and everyone on the panel was like, I don't know, and then you were like, that's true.
That's true. Yep. You see it in this. He mentions it at some other point, I believe, in Terminator 1. It might have been Terminator 2. No, it's Terminator 1. And then we see it there, and then when the dog starts barking outside the motel, and Reese immediately jumps up and goes, "We're in trouble."
Yep. And it's at the beginning when he's walking up to the first Sarah's house. There's that little dog.
Yes. Yep. Which, I mean, that's kind of normal. We're used to that.
Yeah.
But once you hear that dogs are used to sniff out Terminators, then you become aware. That looks like a set right there, but that was practical.
Now, what's the famous story about this fog? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Wasn't there something nearby or that was?
No, I believe I'm pretty sure we created it. I've heard different stories about this. That's what they used to call a mofogger. A mofogger was called that because it made this noise. and it looked like a long barrel, a thick long barrel with a device at the end that would heat up oil and then blow it out, and it would make it very loud. And that's how we used to do that.
Huh.
That I think was Mofog or Fog. So
Here we go. Here we go.
I
Iconic.
love it.
Iconic.
I learned today that he learns that word "fuck you, asshole" from the punks in the beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
I need your clothing. Fuck you, asshole.
Yeah. Bill Paxton. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the prosthetic again.
What were those real flies or were those fake flies?
No, those are little plastic flies stuck on a head.
I love it. I love it.
Oh yeah. When I did this documentary or attempted to help with a documentary 20 years ago or so, this was still there. I don't know if it is still.
Is it called the Tiki Motel?
It was not when I went there.
Okay.
And if it, whatever it is now, it was some other motel back then. It had changed from Tiki. I think we created that sign. That dog, I was told, is James Cameron's. I don't know if that's true or not.
Uh-huh. And I like that Reese goes up to him and like, like smell me, smell me.
Well, he's used to that in the future. You do that with all dogs.
Yeah.
If you're human.
It's a
So
nice
dogs
little,
learn. You're good. Yeah. You're human. You're not.
it's a nice detail that I would love to know. Was that Cameron directing or was that just Michael Bean understanding?
I don't know. That's a good thing. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, Michael added a lot to this too, but Jim is so detail oriented. This was a set. It had to be because we shot the hell out of it, blew it apart. There was something posted a couple of weeks ago on one of the sites, and it was a picture in the makeup trailer of a bunch of the cast, including Michael Bean, and he was holding up a sheet of color slides. And in the old days, actors would have the ability to kill certain stills. They would be handed a sheet of maybe 30 stills in little frames, and if they were in them, if they didn't like the way they looked, they could take a Sharpie and they would just put an X on them. So then publicity knew we don't want to show these to the public. And Michael Bean had this up in his hand, and somebody had zoomed way into a shot that looked like Linda Hamilton during the lovemaking scene. And they said, "Oh, this was taken during the lovemaking scene." I texted and said, I emailed back and said, "No, it wasn't. For one, I took the picture. It's one I think you posted before of a bunch of us in the makeup trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And two, that's what's going on with these stills, and that's the way it used to be, that actors could kill their stills. And I can tell you it's not from the still photographer because there was no still photographer allowed in that room. I was allowed in there because Jim wanted them sweaty. But other than that, it was a camera operator, the focus puller, Jim, and myself, because Linda was naked. Right. So was Michael. He wanted them sweaty and beady and all of that. So I had to be there to do that each time. So I said, I guarantee you no still photographer took that picture. That is not from the lovemaking scene. It's amazing how much this movie holds up still. Yes, it looks very 80s, but so does Rocky, I mean, but it's still great entertainment.
It's 100% great entertainment. And what really helps is whether, people have debates on the quality of the transfer, but, they're constantly upgrading the 4K and all that stuff.
Right.
So they're making it look crisper and everything.
Yes. I mean, luckily we had good sound. We had good cinematography. Adam Greenberg, who became Arnold's very favorite cinematographer, and Arnold used him on many films. A wonderful man. I don't know if he's even alive still. Retired many years ago. And Arnold used to love it because Adam was Israeli, and he would go, "Yes, you have to light him, very, very indirectly to show all of the bones and all of the angles of him." And Arnold loved that. And Adam was so passionate about lighting Arnold. And of course, I heard in the old days, the way cinematographers worked is they made the leading women look good. If you could make your leading actress look good, you would be hired over and over and over on big projects. That's the way they judged cinematographers back in the day. Well, I guess that's still alive and well.
Do you
I love the
recall if,
scene because
sorry, do you
yeah,
recall if Gail was on this the set during the lovemaking? Would she have been there?
probably would have been. Gail was on the set quite a bit.
Okay.
You know, Gail was quite a wonderful lady and was very involved. Um, she was. I mean, we had Bruce Kerner as our producer in charge of production. We had Donna Smith as our production manager.
Yep.
Although production managers don't normally make choices as high level as producers do, um, but they're still very important when it comes to the day-to-day finances and crew and the money flowing through everybody's hands. You have a powerful producer, and of course Jim produced it also. Jim had final say on this, as he does on everything. That's what's nice about working with directors in films. Directors in films generally have the final say. They are the one-stop shopping, where you go to TV and it's the showrunner who has the final say. And directors oftentimes are brought in, multiple directors during a season, hoping that they get the episode done on time, on budget, and don't piss anybody off, so they'll be called back again to do another episode or several more. So in the film world, James Cameron, as director, is God.
I don't know if I've ever asked you, Jeff, who are some, I mean, obviously Cameron, but who are some of your other like favorite filmmakers? Not even that you worked with, just some
Oh,
of your favorite filmmakers.
I mean, I love Nolan. I love Fincher. Um, wow, so many. I mean, I worked with John McTiernan several times. Enjoyed him. Paul Verhoeven, crazy but lots of fun. Um, who else? You know, a lot of the big names that are big today, I like their work. I like there's a reason why they're more household names and that they have more power, is because they do films that are appreciated either through critics or, you know, if you appreciate it through critics, then you win awards, but you don't always make money for the studio. So when you find a director that is strong with critics and strong with audiences, hence make a lot of money, they're the gods of Hollywood.
Have you have you seen Sinners?
I have. I absolutely, okay, there you go. I watched Sinners recently and I thought, okay, it's going to be a vampire film. I'll expect it to be maybe a good vampire film. I turned to my son, who is the cinephile in the family, and we were watching it together. I said, halfway through it, before I realized it was a vampire film, and said, "This thing's going to be nominated for the from the Academy. This is so well done. It's so well acted. It's so well shot. I cannot recommend it enough." But it is a vampire. It is a horror film, but it's done on an absolutely top shelf level, in my opinion.
100% agree.
Yep. I just saw the movie The Surfer with Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage has grown on me quite a bit in the last few years. Everything he does lately, I love. I wasn't a big fan of the old Nicolas Cage because he does a lot of these kind of independent, weird projects. I thought it was fantastic. Several people walked out of the theater because it's a brutal film to watch, but it's got a twist at the end, and I just thought it was brilliantly shot, brilliantly acted, perfect vehicle for Nicolas Cage. Up, there's that dog.
Yep.
This guy right here was one of our stand-ins. I'm still in touch with.
Oh, you're still in touch with them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you see, I mean, you could do this kind of thing to a practical room by putting false walls up and such, but it's just easier to build it. It's such a simple little build with four walls. Of course, when you build a set, you have flexibility. You can tear walls away. You can put a camera where a wall used to be, you know, which is endless freedom, but it's expensive. If you just walk into a motel room and film it, or a bathroom, needless to say, filming in practical bathrooms, practical meaning they exist already. It's from somebody's home or a business. Um, you can't move the walls, and suddenly you try to get two camera operators with two cameras and actors all in a little bathroom. I've seen it done many, many times, and it works. But you don't have the freedom to be able to pull a wall away and get back further or do a dolly track. And of course, these insert car traveling shots like this are done in a multitude of ways, both back then and now. Typically, if it's inside the car's either the camera operator's inside the car or the camera's mounted on the outside, and the grips create a whole structure to rigidly mount the cameras on the hood or on each side looking at the actors. Then you have the vehicle that's being towed, and it's being towed by a camera car, covered with people, covered with cameras, covered with lights, and they're filming the people. Sometimes the car is rolling on its own, sometimes the car is on a flatbed. So it's quite the monstrosity. You get a big truck with like 8, 10 people on it, cameras, lights. Then you have a big flatbed that has the vehicle on it, all filming. It's a beast going down the road. That's why you need lots of police and lots of guidance and protection having to do with nobody's going to come out of nowhere in front of you because you can't slow these monstrosities down very quick. And people have been killed in these contraptions before, not on our film, but I believe it was on the Paul Verhoeven film with all the creatures, Starship Troopers. Yeah, I think somebody was killed in that. I might be wrong, but I do know that people have been killed on insert vehicles before. Dangerous as hell. All right, this scene where Arnold gets torn apart. We've heard the story many, many times about how he went into a restaurant. Well, being that I was there, I can tell it very accurately. Once he gets hit here, it's a lot of reset between different shots because it's all technical. It all has to do with a lot of moving parts. And Arnold's in full makeup. And I can't remember if it was myself or Peter Kent who was there. Said, "Hey, Arnold, we've got like 30 minutes. Let's walk over to that restaurant." So we walk in. It was Arnold, myself, Peter Kent, and I think one more person. And we walk into this restaurant through the back door. And Arnold's in full makeup. I mean, you can imagine. He looks like he does at this stage. And as we're walking in, there's a payphone on the left, and a woman is on the phone. And she says to the person, "Oh my gosh, a punk band just walked in here." This is a nice restaurant because that's all she figured he could be, with metal showing and all the outfit. Can you imagine this walking into a restaurant?
Oh my God.
This was our key grip right there, that guy that just jumped out. Our, Jim loves to use his crew. And he walks in and he walks up to the restaurant. Everybody stops. You know, there's 20, 30 people in there. And they're like half stop eating, looking at him. They see us, but we're dressed normally. And Arnold goes, "Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic time. Enjoy your meal." And he turns around and he starts to walk out. You know, nothing else. And and I'm right behind him. And he's walking out in his Terminator walk. And he stops right next to where the woman's still on the phone. And he turns to her like a Terminator, takes the phone out of her hand, reaches over and kisses her on the cheek, hands her back the phone, turns and walks out.
Wow.
Where is this woman now? I want to hear from her what she thought that was all about.
Right.
Because nobody knew who Arnold was. He'd done Conan before, but you know, unless they knew bodybuilding, nobody knew who he was, especially looking like that.
Oh wow. And oh man, of course, in an era where because now people would just whip out their phones and take photos. And
Oh yeah,
everything.
nobody had a cell phone in
Yeah.
1983.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see like just like someone sitting in a booth, just kind of taking a photo real quick.
Oh, I know. Fun to recreate that. Let's do the documentary. And this was all down at Piper Tech, which is down in Los Angeles. This is where a lot of the Los Angeles Police Department are. All the helicopters are on the roof. I can't believe they let us do all this there. Of course, we have some miniatures here that blow up, but a lot of this was practical.
Now I noticed that truck on the door. It said JC. Was that?
I'm sure.
Intentional.
I'm sure. Yeah. When we did Terminator 2, when Arnold gets his arm torn off in the metal factory, finally tears free of it, Jim wanted a bunch of blood there. Okay. So I did it and I wrote in it JC. It was kind of ambiguous, but if you know what you're looking for, you go, oh, I see it. And okay, Jim, approval. He looks, oh, looks good. I go, look at it again, carefully. And he looks at it and goes, ah, Dawn. He takes his palm, he just goes like that, just to get rid of the JC.
Ah.
I always had a very sarcastic relationship with Jim, bantering back and forth, which was fun. But of course, you always got to let him win.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy that knows the answers. I remember in Terminator 1, he goes, hey, Dawn. He used to call me by my last name, Dawn. Do you know what the word Terminator means? I go, a cybernetic organism that kills people? He goes, no, it's the line on the planet between daylight and night. That hard line that if you're looking at the planet and you see this is the night side, this is the day side, that is called the Terminator. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I did
Yep.
not know that.
I didn't either, but I learned it after that.
Now, what I don't understand here, maybe you can clarify. We just saw the Terminator melt away on its back. When it comes back alive, it's like on its stomach.
Well, it could be rolling around right now,
Okay.
writhing in where's all my skin going?
Watch.
This was all done with a blue screen or a green screen.
See, look, it's like facing down now.
Yeah. Well, it had to be because this is they had the machine. You only had so much. Of course, this is a stop motion.
Yep.
That's the real deal. We had the real thing, bits and pieces of it, the torso up that was very mechanical.
Yeah, that's my favorite. The shots of, I forget his name,
Yeah.
the operator that's operating.
Yeah, Shane Mayhem.
Okay.
And he still works at Legacy.
That's
Him
amazing.
and John Rosengrand, two of the guys that were there with Stan forever. And they recreated it after Stan's death from Stan Winston Studios, which is still up and running. But the bulk of that of the work that Stan used to do is being done now by Legacy. This was about a 2-foot puppet. I never saw it, but that's what I heard.
And you know what? I would argue that still looks really good because it is supposed to be kind of janky now, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be mechanical. It's supposed to, and it's also failing. There's a lot in this machine that's starting to fail. This was at the Kern juice factory in, I can't remember, it was at one of the cities around LA. This was tough on Linda because she was so method when it came to the stress of dying and almost dying and being chased and all of this. But it shows up on screen, And this was near the end of our filming. It was exhausted. We were just tired and we'd work days and nights, long days. And Jim is wonderful to work for, but like I tell people, you work on a James Cameron film, and when you finish the film, you're better at your craft than you've ever been because you have to be. You have to be completely prepared because Jim will come to you and go, "Hey, Don, now you realize that this is following this other scene. What do you have prepared for it? And you'd better be ready to lay it out and say, this is why I see it. This is what I'd like to do to test it. You've got to really be on your game. If you're just going to phone it in, you're not going to last long with Jim." And I don't recall seeing Jim fire people. I'm sure he has, but typically Jim will scream at somebody on set because they failed, and not scream, but he'll call them out. Jim's not a screamer at all. I've never seen him yell, but he will call you out publicly, and it's embarrassing because you're in front of 100 people, and he's pointing out that you screwed up somehow. People don't quit because they know they screwed up. Most of the time, we can hide our screw ups. We get very good at that in our different crafts. But James Cameron is so smart and knows everybody's job so well. He'll call you on it, and he'll call you publicly. It only happens once because you're embarrassed. You say, "So help me, that'll never happen again. Don't allow this to happen." and you improve. So you get very good working on James Cameron films.
Oh, this is terrifying. Come on, this is
This is
terrifying.
terrifying. Yeah. Yeah,
I would literally shit my pants if I saw that thing come around the corner.
I know. And it only wants to kill her, and it'll just do whatever it takes to him to get him out of the way. I love the shot of the failing foot here because he's got some pieces that are loose there on the feet after the truck ran over him. That's why he was limping as the Terminator before he lost his skin.
Ooh, ooh.
You know? This is the scene where I told you about that had the shrapnel in her leg.
Ooh. All right, movie's over.
Yeah.
It's killed.
Uh-huh. Oh, thank God. I read today, I don't know if it's true or not, could very well be true, that the studio wanted this to end once the truck blew up.
Huh.
And James Cameron fought tooth and nail, said, no, there is a big part of this still to go.
Right.
And he won out.
You know, I think it's a shame that the one scene that I really wish was included in this that was cut was the reveal that this is
Yeah, I know.
Cyberdyne, right? Like there's like
Yep.
Cyberdyne involved here.
Yep. I just thought that was a perfect tie-in because for those who don't know, we shot a scene where at the end where everybody gets taken away in ambulances, it's the next day, and they find they find the chip at that point?
I think so, yeah.
They find the chip and say, "Hey, take this to our R&D department. Let's see what this is all about." And as we back away with the camera, it tilts up and you see it's Cyberdyne Systems.
Oh.
This is how this was done. Of course, in Terminator 2, we pick up with that this is Cyberdyne Systems. They have the chip, they have the arm still. Reverse engineering, baby. It's done all the time.
Yep.
It's amazing. These are all practical shots that work so well.
So what is that? Is that literally just someone pulling it from the front?
Yes. Yep. Somebody pushing it. There's a bar behind pushing. There's,
Wow.
there's lots of body parts here. An arm, just an arm that's actuated. And all of these have like bars attached to them and lots of cables going into them for the operators to operate off camera. There was servos in the head that would move it around up and down. Shoulders would move manually. Of course, this was, through by people being off camera, just with a bar attached to the arm, a long bar, just moving it so that what we see on camera moves.
Right. And continuity I find funny. Like I don't know what they're called, but they're those things that come down from the top of the head to connect to the neck. Certain shots they're missing, so that they can move the head a little more. That's
Yep. Yep.
But you just get so wrapped up in it, you don't even catch.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, continuity, when people are into a scene, continuity means nothing.
Yeah.
Many times you'll see in films, or at least I see this, where they'll film something where there's major continuity, whether it's hair on one side, wounds on one side, an earpiece on one side, and they film it in the wrong direction. Instead of looking right to left, they're looking left to right. So then in post-production, they flip it over. So now we have the correct screen direction, but now all the continuity is off. This happens all the time. It's happened in my films before. And people just don't see it. It horrifies me, but people don't see it.
And there's literally someone on set in charge of that, right? Continuity.
Well, yes, our script supervisor also has a secondary job of having continuity, watching continuity, which they catch many things, but it really comes down to the department. Whether it's makeup, it's me. Whether it's props, it's the cigarette length or how much liquid is still in a cup.
Right.
These kind of things are for each department to keep an eye on. And we're constantly going back to continuity and going, hey, this is the way I remember it. These are the photos I have from the scene we shot 3 months ago. Is that how you see it? Oh yeah, 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 that's good. So you're constantly doing that, but things do slip through the cracks.
There he goes.
Oh boy.
Never to be seen again unless you watch the special edition cut of T2.
Yes. Yeah, this was where we had, the chip and let's get this down to research and development, and then they pan up to Cyberdyne Systems. This scene, the first kid we used was so not to Jim's liking, the way he did the performance, that we had to do reshoots weeks later in the parking lot of our production office in Hollywood at Lights. It wasn't Lightstorm. It was, what was it back then? Hemdale, I think, Productions. So the kid just didn't work out that well. So we had to use another kid that was better. You can see it's a very different kid when you see the back of his head and then you see the front. I'm wondering if this dog is James Cameron's too. If that was true, that the dog that we saw before that looked very much like this dog was James Cameron, if this dog is the same one, I don't know.
Now, I've heard debates about this. Some people, I mean, obviously we know there's a T2, but if at this time, obviously there was only this film, do you think it wraps up perfectly, or do you think it leaves like a cliffhanger at the end of there's more to come?
Well, of course. I mean, when you think about it, it's hard not to think of what we've all learned from all the other Terminator movies.
Right.
But when you think about it, she's still alive. The Terminators can if the future is not the way Cyberdyne Systems and AI likes it, they know that she's still alive, that she gave birth to John Connor. So they would want to continue to watch. This kid right here is very different than that kid. This kid's much heavier. This kid's a skinny little kid with a little skinny neck and shoulders. This kid's a heavier kid. But who's going to catch that? Who's going to know that?
Yeah.
So you'd think that it's still out there. Judgment Day is coming. We know that. She believes now the Judgment Day is coming, as she says here. The storm is coming. And so it very much leaves it open.
Yeah.
I like in Terminator 2 when we shot the end sequence where it's the future. Judgment Day never came. John Connor's now, 40 years old. Linda Hamilton's an older person that we did these old age makeups on. And it basically says that, Judgment Day never came. It's the future. It's happiness. We won. And Jim was very smart to cut that out because then it just opens it up that Judgment Day is always coming. You have to continue to fight. And you cannot show a happy ending to the story or else you kill all the future films.
There it is. The
Very
Terminator. Cool. Now that always bothered me, and I know it bothered Jim too. Harlan Ellison, the bastard. He had to. You know about that, right? Like they went to court.
On which part? Because I'm aware of several court cases.
Because it just said there, the producers wish to acknowledge the works of Harlan Ellison. He was the guy that wrote, I think it was an Outer Limits episode that he said.
Right. That's the one I'm aware of. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Jim wanted to fight it, but the studio wouldn't back him. So, and he didn't have the resources or the power to do it. Yeah. So he to this day is very unhappy with that.
Yep.
I mean, when you think about it, every project that we see has elements of other things in it. You know, I mean, it's hard to watch a film or a TV or read something nowadays that doesn't pull from other ideas and other elements.
Yeah. But man, there it is. That's the Terminator. It's a tight film. I mean, that literally flew by.
It really did. I was going to watch it earlier today just to get a jump on it again, but I didn't need it. All the stuff just popped up in my head as we were filming, and I was able to throw some other elements of T2 and some other little stories in there. But yeah, I have great memories of that. A lot of it has to do with the the simplicity of guerrilla filmmaking. Again, it's not guerrilla. Let's call it independent filmmaking, non-union, independent, lower budget filmmaking. I went on to be very fortunate to do a lot of 100 and 200 million dollar films through my career. And they were wonderful to work on. You had endless budgets many times. Sometimes I had 70 makeup and hair people working for me. But it becomes such a juggernaut. You know, you hire two people, and then you have to hire a third to take care of the other two. It just keeps exponentially building. When you have lunch, you only sit with your crew. You only handle your stuff. If I wanted to help the grips with an apple box, don't touch that. That's not your union. And you lose the innocent days of when I was giving my services for free to American Film Institute and USC and UCLA. They would just pay me $100 for supplies, and then I would learn and fail, succeed. Um, I miss those days a lot, and I was able to recapture those days when my son went to Chapman Film School and graduated about 15 years ago, doing many of his projects and other projects that were just guerrilla filmmaking. So when I retired a couple of years ago, I said, you know what? I don't want to do any more 100, $200 million films. I've done big projects. I have a Western coming out called Frontier Crucible, which the producers just flew me to LA to see with a cast screening, and I absolutely loved it. It was done for under $1 million and it's a really good, very brutal. It's with Bill Macy, it's with Armie Hammer, and it's with Thomas Jane, and another group of wonderful cast members. And absolutely loved it. I've done several Westerns now. I love Westerns. I love the lower budget films. Give me something between 1 and 5 million. Okay. And I've done things that are $60,000. I just did a small project that was just almost no budget whatsoever, and I got almost nothing for it. I absolutely loved it. I have a huge thing coming out called Pendragon Cycle, which is a 7-part. Hopefully it'll be, I mean, we did it for 70 million. Originally they wanted to do it for 20 and it went to 70. It looks like a $200 million project. It's Merlin and that world. We had 105 cast members on it. I had 70 people working. We did it mostly in Hungary, some of it in Italy, some of it in Romania. And I had huge makeup and hair tents and trailers. I had 6 makeup trailers and effects trailers, a huge tent. We would process 25 principals, about 20 stunt people, and 300 extras a day. And they were all into full makeup. These were Vikings and barbarians and tattoos and hair pieces and wounds. It was like the year 500 England. And we had 3 huge units filming simultaneously. I was the department head, the designer of makeup and hair on it. It was the biggest project I've ever done. And this is after I've been retired. Absolutely loved it. I still have the passion for it. So I'll still do projects that are subjects, places, and people I want to work with. Budget doesn't matter. You want to give me a quarter of my normal rate? If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you myself at full rate. You know, the same Jeff Dawn, you know. And I'm more passionate about it now than I've ever been. Strange. So I'll keep doing this a few more years. But remember, I'm retired.
Well, look, you know, I love talking to you. You know, I love having you on, and hopefully this was a blast for you to kind of go back down memory lane to actually see it. I know we've done a few of these, but we're always, just talking about it. This was hopefully it brought back some, and I definitely heard things I had never heard before. So,
Well,
thank you
I'm
so
careful
much.
when I don't know the answer, but I think I know the answer. There's always the disclaimer of this is what I've heard. I think it's true, or it may not be. And of course, the things that I was absolutely there for, I can, swear on a Bible with because I was there.
Right.
I was a participant with it.
Ugh, I loved it. I loved it. Well, thank you again. And everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. This was, something that I really wanted to do. I want to do this for all of Cameron's films. I want to have somebody that worked on the film for each of the audio commentaries. So had to get you on because I feel like we've talked more about T2. So I definitely wanted to get you on for T1. So
Well, and I want to thank you because your passion and your hard work through all of Arnold's films and especially the Terminator films and his films in general is infectious. It's something for people like myself to look up to. Thank you for being this person, and I didn't know when I did these films. When I did Terminator, they paid me $850 a week back in 1983, which was, that's decent money, but it was very low for a makeup department head. But it was a low budget film, and I was happy to do it. And no regrets there whatsoever. And everywhere I go in the world, people come up to me, "Are you the guy that did the Terminator films?" You know? And it's fun now because, especially with men, I've had so many men come up to me and say, "Jeff, you did the films that I grew up on. The Predators and the the Star Trek films and the Terminators and all these different things." And suddenly it makes me feel good. I don't need that for my ego, but it makes me realize that what I did was really special. I was to appreciate it that much more. Not what I did was special that I did it, but I was part of it. And I had people like Stan Winston, Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron. They were very supportive over the years. I ended up doing 19 films with Arnold and still stay in touch with them. And I've lived several lifetimes, and I thank the film industry and so many people in the industry for that.
Mm. All right, everybody. Well, look, we just watched a Cameron film, but like I say at the end of every podcast, go watch another Cameron film.